sex therapist says diet culture is a form of assault. Imagine that. Fat people think being told to go on a diet is an assault. I bet. In the same way, I guess that drug addicts view people taking away their drugs or threatening to take away their drugs as some form of assault. Oh, my God. So, fat sex therapist says that weight loss science is white supremacy. Really? I mean, what about fat black people that want to lose weight? What is that, like internalized racism, self-hate? Is that also a product of white supremacy? And they're just internalizing that? A woman who calls herself the fat sex therapist, I have to wonder how much knowledge this woman would actually have about sex. I mean, I've talked about this before. Yes, there's plenty of dudes out there that are chubby chasers and will bang fat chicks and in fact like that. There's lots of websites for that. Well, maybe a few websites anyway, where a woman can get laid. But I don't know that that would make her an expert in regards to sex, okay? But anyway, so she gave a speech at St. Olaf. Boy, even the name of that college sounds obese. College in Minnesota, during which she claimed that diet culture, is there such a thing as diet culture? I don't think it's like veganism. Veganism is like a fucking culture, you know? All these loser people making their ideology into their way of identifying who they are, getting their sense of self mixed up with something that is really a small part or supposed to be a small part of your life. Are there really people out there that, you know, make diet the entire part of their existence? I guess there are, but I don't think there's nearly as many as a lot of these vegan nuts. But anyway, diet culture is a form of assault and that weight loss science was white supremacy. I truly believe that a child cannot consent to being on a diet. Well, children can't consent to much at all. Okay? It's kind of the point of having parents. They're supposed to make decisions for you that are good for you and your health. Can't consent to being on a diet the same way a child cannot consent to having sex. Well, she's just mixed up a positive and a negative there. So, what? Wait, what? What is she talking about? So already this doesn't make any sense. So a child can't consent to being on a diet. Okay, first of all, that would imply that diets are harmful, okay? And we know they're not. Kids having sex, we know from years and years of evidence, both anecdotal, scientific, observational. There's scientific evidence that shows that kids having sex, especially with adults, it's bad for them and it's morally reprehensible. But dieting? No, that is in no way, shape, or form harmful to a child, okay? Now, granted, if you're like an anorexic or something, that's like dieting on fucking steroids, you know? You're 80-pound fucking skeleton walking around. Look like somebody that just came out of Auschwitz, okay? That's not good. But if you're fat and getting thin, that's good for you. But of course, she's trying to draw some kind of equivalency here by saying that dieting is somehow just as harmful as children having sex. No, it's not. They're not even in the same ballpark. So apples and oranges. So, you know, she's making a categorization error here. She doesn't understand logic. So Sonali Rashawar told the audience during a 2-hour speech, she could make a 2-hour speech, really? Well, I guess she's sitting down. She might be huffing and puffing. Because I guess just talking that much would probably tire her out. On the topic of radical fat liberation. Oh, boy. How is that liberating to be a fat pig? And isn't there a moral problem? I mean, I thought these people were really moral. Isn't it bad to eat enough food for 3 or 4 people? I mean, what about those starving kids in Nicaragua and all over Africa and in other parts of the world? I mean, isn't it morally objectionable to you leftist scum for this big fat broad to be eating enough food to feed 4 starving people? I mean, what about all these fatties in the world? If they all gave up the amount of food that's required to sustain that bulk and just ate a normal diet, you could feed all the starving people in the world. You want to talk about hoarding wealth and hoarding resources? These motherfuckers are hoarding it in their own fucking bodies. Jesus Christ. Oh, but I don't have a problem with that. I experience diet culture as a form of assault because it impacts the way I experience my body. Wasn't that your problem? I don't hold a gun to your head and tell you how to view yourself. So she's talking about her self-image, and she's trying to say that people pushing the idea of me needing to lose weight makes me feel bad about myself. Well, first of all, I don't make you feel anything, and you don't make me feel anything. You can call me a cocksucker. You can call me a cunt. You can call me a douchebag. You can call me whatever you want. What the fuck do I care? I don't care. Call me what you want. Fuck off. I don't give a shit. Doesn't bother me unless I choose for it to bother me. But I am a little puppet and you have power over me. Well, that's your problem, honey. And that's your choice, too. Rash Tawar went on to assert that science was a tool of white supremacy. Right, because science says things you don't want to hear, meaning facts about being obese that make it not quite a good option, right? Yeah. Essentially, science can and does say that being fat is bad for you, and there's a number of examples as to why it's bad for you. I don't want to hear that. It's white supremacy. We should be critical of the use of science and the production of knowledge. Production of knowledge. See, okay, so this is leftist nonsense. Knowledge isn't produced, okay? I'm sorry that you think that everything that we know is just some kind of social construction. Reality is nothing more than perception, and we're just creating it as we go. There's no objective facts. Everything we know is just produced. Yeah, okay. Yeah, nonsense. What total nonsense. Use of science and the production of knowledge to continue promoting this idea that certain bodies are fit, able, and desirable. But so she's denying fact. She's a fact denier, okay? She likes being fat, she just doesn't like facts about fatness. Or she has her own facts, right? Yeah, of course, I mean. I want to accept myself the way I am, so you need to stop talking about facts. I have my own truth. How dare you try to make me believe in reality being objective and not subjective? I want to believe what I want to believe, God damn it. Yeah. So, she goes on to say, is it my fatness that causes my high blood pressure? Yeah. Yeah. Or is it my experience of weight stigma? What? So essentially what she's trying to say is, it's not the fat that's making my blood pressure spike so high you could see the veins throbbing out of the side of my head and my neck is popping out and it looks like my head's going to explode. No, that's not the fat. It's your nasty words about the truth that I don't believe in. It's just a fabrication. All knowledge is fabricated. Yeah, okay. Rashatwar asked, going on to claim that fat phobia was a form of Nazism. So crazy. Right. Well, anything that she doesn't want to hear is apparently Nazism, which, you know, is everything that the left says, right? You say something I don't like, you're a Nazi. So Rashatwar went on to argue that people shouldn't be burdened with personal responsibility for weight loss. Apparently, they shouldn't be burdened with any personal responsibility at all. Even though these same kind of people, and I guarantee you, she's for universal health care, no doubt. I bet you her bills are huge. I bet you the amount of money that it costs to provide this woman with health care. God, good God, could you imagine the blood thinners alone? The medication to keep her blood pressure down so her head doesn't explode. I mean, holy shit. Yeah, sure, she wants other people to be burdened with the responsibility of taking care of her. Meanwhile, I don't have any personal responsibility for myself. Yes, I should have no personal responsibility for weight loss and that social supports should be in place to help fat people subsidize their food costs. Oh, wow. Okay, that's going a step too far, okay? Now, first of all, it's wrong to try and shunt off your personal responsibility onto other people by arguing for Universal health care, regardless of whether or not you're in good health or bad. By the way, this woman is in very bad health. So that's wrong right there. You're making other people your slaves. You're telling them they have to treat you. You went to medical school for 8 years. You spent 4 years in residency. Oh, well, you have to treat me even if I pay you a chicklet. Here's a chicklet. Now you got to treat me because the state says you have to, right? And meanwhile, the few productive people left are paying for your ass, or the government's just printing money ad infinitum and making everybody else's labor worth less as the days go by. Yeah. Everybody else is responsible for me except me. And she wants people to subsidize her food costs too. What an entitled bitch. All right, wait, so let me get this straight. You want to eat as much as you want and just be this fat tub of goo that eventually isn't going to be able to move. And we're going to have to create this big fucking platform on wheels like Jabba the Hutt had in his fucking palace. And when Jabba wanted to move around, see me Jedi, see me Jedi, they had to fucking roll him over to that fucking hole in the ground where fucking Luke Skywalker was fighting that big giant, I don't remember what the fuck that thing was called. Eventually threw a rock and hit a fucking mechanism and the door dropped on it. That's going to be you, lady. But I should have to pay for that, right? Yeah. Wrong. She also said that the Christchurch shooter being a fitness instructor was proof that Nazis really love this idea of an idealized body. Correlation does not equal causation. Just because somebody's fit doesn't make them a Nazi because one person who was a fitness instructor turned out to be a nut job and possibly a Nazi. We don't know. Yeah, she has no grasp of logic at all. Where did she come up with this stuff? Yeah, just pulls it out of her fucking ass, which would be very difficult. By the way, I doubt she's been able to touch her ass or wipe her own ass in quite some fucking time. How does a fat broad like this wipe her ass anyway? Good God. That's got to be a chore. I bet she doesn't. I bet she doesn't wipe her ass. How could she? Could you imagine reaching around all that fucking fat? It's impossible. It's impossible. My guess is she just waits until she takes a shower and just sticks the fucking shower nozzle up in there. Oy vey. Or maybe she's just inventing pseudo-intellectual excuses for being fat and lazy, said the writer in a closing response to this woman. Yeah. I love the entitlement. I want to be fat my whole life. And I have all these wonderful excuses, and you should have to pay for my food bills and, of course, my health care, too. Which you know is her standing. You know that she believes in that as well, universal health care. I mean, she's okay with having you subsidize her food costs. She's a socialist. What an idiot. What an idiot. Dieting is white supremacy. Oh, my God. This is crazy. Fat sex therapist. How is this? Would you go to this for help with your sex life? Oh, my God. It's crazy. And of course she thinks everything's a fabrication, right? Because she's a leftist. They all believe that everything's a social construct. Everything, both facts and knowledge, it's all just a fabrication. Knowledge is just produced. And it's whoever's in power at the time and in the dominant position that creates said knowledge and then calls it facts. Yeah. That's what she wants to do. And that's what these people do. That's not how reality actually is, but that's how they want reality to be, right? She's an idiot.